This week we start out in a slow South Dakota, then head to Big Kansas Outdoors for Milo Mallards.
I yearn for a place to call my own. I'm going home. Say what you will, I'll be better for it still. I've been wondering what you're doing with your time, just to get you off my mind. I'm in the grind.
The Grind Waterfowl TV is brought to you by Dakota Decoy, premium gunning decoys for demanding hunters. Lucky Duck, masters of deception. Rio, official ammunition of the grind. Share the experience. Mud Buddy, the king of mud motors. Excel, the boat to own. Cornerstone Gun Dog Academy, the world's most accessible online retriever training program. High Mountain Seasonings, handcrafted jerky, seasonings, and meat processing tools. Lifetime Decoys, premium decoy rigging equipment. Sitka Gear, turning clothing into gear. Alps Outdoors, exceed your expectations. And these fine sponsors. This segment is brought to you by Mud Buddy and Excel Boats.
Well, we are on the Missouri River. We try and do this every year. It seems like every year it gets a little later and later. It's a weird year. Sound like a broken record, but it was a weird migration again this year. It got cold to start with. We had a really good push in like early mid-November, and then just dried up again and got warm. Starting to get a little colder now. They're calling for some snow and some cold coming in. So we're hoping that we get a push of ducks. There's about 500,000 ducks up and down this river right now, but they just aren't moving. They're on the big water, not going out.
Even with plenty of birds on the river, they had a hard-to-hunt pattern. With the relentless cold, they sat tight most mornings and went out to feed late in the afternoon, not coming back to the water until after shooting time. However, Ben had them going in Kansas, so we were headed south for better patterning birds.
When we got here, a big cold front had come through Kansas, and I think it's always difficult to adjust when a cold front comes through, figure out what the birds were doing. Ben had figured out that the birds were on an afternoon, evening flight pattern. They weren't coming out in the morning, and so we made the decision that we wouldn't go out in the first morning. But we knew nothing was flying in the morning, and we made the right call. We went out in the field. Nothing was flying that morning on the scout. No one saw any birds.
Yesterday they flew about 3 o'clock. But we'll probably try and get in there about 12:31, get set up, just in case we got early flyers. So, the only catch to this is, and I don't know what your guys' take on it would be, we set up in here, obviously set our spread out front. We're gonna have the sun at our back, which is good for camera, but if the wind's more east than south,
That's a problem.
then that's a problem, but it's supposed to be south-southeast, which means they'd probably be approaching pretty hard left to right, but they might come a little bit over our shoulder. We've been up to the Big Kansas Outdoors. We're in a cut Milo field, pretty thick, a bunch of ducks been in here. We're already seeing a few kind of milling around, doing duck stuff, but we're trying to get set up real quick. We're gonna set out like 15 to 20 dozen of the Dakota Signature Series and 10 dozen of the Mallard full bodies from Dakota as well. South-southeast wind, pretty strong, about 15 miles an hour. They've been flying around 3 o'clock, but with this wind, I think the sun's gonna come out. Hopefully they should get up a little sooner, so stay tuned. Hopefully we put down a 5-man limit.
That morning on the scout, no one saw any birds. We set up just after lunch, and sure enough, as soon as we set up, they started flying just like they had scouted the day before.
Here we go, here we go.
This segment is brought to you by Rio Ammunition.
Here we go, here we go. all by myself. Everybody else went to park their vehicles. Single Drake came in. Kind of missed my first shot, but
Dead.
go Drake. Nice shooting, boys. Nice shooting, guys.
Yeah, dogs have a tough time marking them. Mine do anyway. It's not flooded timber.
What's up, buddy?
Oh, that's good, man. I freaking love watching them work like that. Dead. Knocking over decoys left and right. Here. Dead.
Oh, big deal. Gonna be fun.
Sit. Shoot the pintail.
This is pintail Drake in the cotton top. Nice shoot, boy.
You're calling on those two, I would have known what to look for. Here. Dead. Huh?
Big group coming.
Fast and Furious out there, dude.
Oh yeah.
Right over the top of us.
They're all cotton tops. Can we pass them away from Mallards?
Should we shoot two more? Two more?
Here. Mallards right here.
They're struggling. Hey guys, I'm Barton Ramsey with Cornerstone Gun Dog Academy, and this is a retriever training quick tip.
So today what I want to talk to you about is when to correct your dog. So we all know what it's like to work for a good boss, and we also know what it's like to work for a bad boss. You know, the good boss makes you want to work for him and you enjoy work, and the bad boss, you know, you want to look for another job. And so the same is true when you're training your dog. You're the boss out there, so you want to be the good boss and encourage your dog to listen to you. So when you're out there training and your dog makes a mistake, you've got a decision to make at that point in time. Are you going to be good or are you going to be bad? Are you just going to run out and make a correction immediately? Or are you going to stop and then ask yourself a few questions? Personally, I like to stop and ask myself a few questions, and I've found that that helps me avoid unnecessary corrections. A few questions that I like to ask is the first thing, am I doing the wrong thing or am I doing the right thing? The second question I like to ask, does my dog fully understand what I want it to do? And then the third thing I like to ask is, did I train my dog for this scenario? So if you haven't trained your dog for the scenario, you don't want to continue with the training and maybe take a step back and actually try to teach instead of force them to do something. So if you've asked yourself those questions and you've done everything right, your dog knows what it's supposed to do and you know that you've trained it right, that might be a good time for a correction.
This segment is brought to you by Lucky Duck Premium Decoys.
In the afternoon when we were chasing ducks, we were really hoping for some sunlight, but we got clouds, and there were dark clouds. It was not any sunlight peeking through at any point in time, and so that makes everything more difficult. The hide is more difficult. There's no shadows being cast, and no matter how fantastic your decoys are, and we're running a full spread of Dakota full body ducks and Canada geese. And they look great, but there's no sun to make that pop, and we're hunting in a Milo field that's stubble, and so the decoys are, we're in an area that's been beat down a little bit, but they're hiding pretty much in this stubble, and we really relied on the Lucky HD spinners. Those things reflected a lot of light that was coming off the clouds, and they gave us the visibility, because if we hadn't had those, it would have been very easy for these ducks. They wanted in this field. It's a very large field to just go and pop down on the other side and never know that we were there. It was windy. You couldn't hear calling too far away, and so you couldn't hail call them in to get their attention or anything. And so those spinners, we had a few sitting up pretty high and a couple right there at the cut of the Milo, and you could tell as soon as those birds were coming over and saw them, and we caught their attention, they turned, and then they were hooked from that point forward. So.
Here we go. Watch this bear.
3 on my side.
Go, Drake. Nice shot.
Bubba.
Well, weatherman was very wrong again. The sun was supposed to be out by 1, 2 o'clock. Here it is, 3:30. No sun. The sun's not going to make it out, which is unfortunate. These Luckies look a lot better in the sun. Hide looks better in the sun. Camera footage looks better in the sun, but we're making her do, plinking away at them, shooting all drakes, which is good. So stay tuned. Hopefully we shoot some more.
So on our duck hunt, we had 2 dogs that are both from the UK and have never hunted in Milo or any sort of cut field like that before, and so it was definitely interesting to see, what for us looks like a simple mark, and they get out and it's row after row after row, and they're experiencing it for the first time. And it was some rough marking at first. It was a lot more handling than I wanted to have to do, and they started figuring it out. By the end, we're shooting the teal and they're falling. The birds are being marked by the dog straight out, straight back, and so it's a good opportunity to see the dogs go from, I'm not really sure how to mark in this, to okay, now I'm kind of understanding the depth of these rows and how to get through rows, decoys, and then to where the birds are falling. And it was cool to see that progression during the hunt.
Huh? Fuck! Here comes a group. To the right, to the right. Kill him. Go back.
This segment is brought to you by Dakota Decoy.
He's got ice all over him. Back! Belly's all iced up. Go back! Go back! Go! Nice shooting, guys. Quinn!
I doubled nice on the right. I didn't see what you guys did on the left, but I saw birds falling in the peripheral. It looked nice.
Yeah, but still setting no guarantees on those things.
No, it's fun though.
Oh man.
Shoot him. Shoot him. Top on the right. With 2 dogs out, you pick up birds a little bit faster. Hold on. Here we go. I got 2 different whistles. One dog responds better to one better to the other. So try not to handle on blinds with 2 dogs out at the same time because they get confused. But running marks is pretty simple. We got 2 dogs from the UK that this is both of their first time ever in a Milo field. So it's been interesting for them, but they're figuring it out slowly but surely. And it's been fun killing ducks, killing them pretty close. A couple sailing out pretty far, running some big retrieves, some short retrieves. Here, good boy. Been fun so far. Good boy, Dad.
Come on. Shooting a few birds, singles, pairs. Wish we had some sun, it'd be a lot better. We just had a real nice group of green wing teal do it. A nice pair of widgeons. Killed both of those. Getting closer to the limit, blinking away at them. Still plenty of time left, so hopefully we can smash out a limit, call her a day.
What time's shooting light?
Like an hour and 5 minutes or something.
Oh, we got a while. It's been good. Been really good. Never shot teal in a dry field before. They're even better than they are over the water. They just watching mallards circle and circle, and the teal said, "Oh, there they are," and right in like it was nothing.
Eric widgeon. Gorgeous bird. He's a stud.
Same with this guy. Jeez. Pretty colors. Nice mature bird.
Everybody just shoot one. Shoot your one. Shoot Drake, shoot one.
Bubba. Okay. Go back. Here. Dead. Shot a hand. My hands are cold.
My hands are cold.
That's it. Everything else feels really good. My hands and my nose. Those teal, when you called the shot, when they got their wings up, they were another 20 yards.
Smoking.
Bubba.
Even though the sun didn't come, we had good winds and a good variety of species to make up for it.
Boy. Yeah. Kill him. That's it. That's it. Bubba, woo! Clint!
Nice shooting, boys.
Aha! We're done. Woo, that is fun.
Awesome.
That's a wave of teal in the wall. I love it.
Something special about field hunting in the South Central Flyway can be the mix of species you get. That couldn't have been more evident in this hunt, with widgeon and pintails sprinkled through the flocks, and green-winged teal coming out in wads to end the afternoon. It was something we all loved to see, and we couldn't help but wish Bill had been able to make it out and see it himself.
So we're out here piling up birds for a great photo after a great hunt, in spite of what the weatherman said. We were hoping the sun was going to break through, which is what he said was going to happen around 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. Birds flew earlier than we thought. The sun never came out. We would have loved some sun on these decoys. They look fantastic as they are, but you get a little sun on them, especially on the Luckies, it would have been lights out pretty quickly. But, you know, we managed to kill some birds in spite of the weatherman. I think they're wrong more than they're right, so that's on us for trusting what they say anyway. Bill wasn't able to be here for this hunt. He's got a little family situation going on, and so we shot ducks in Bill's memory today because Bill loves shooting ducks, and that's what he wants to do when he comes out here to Kansas. So we shot a limit of ducks for Bill. Ben was kind enough to get us on them, make sure we had a good time, make sure we were shooting them right over the decoys real close and tight.
Next week, Barton and Big Kansas Outdoors take the grindstone to the lessers, making it one for the memory books.